Good morning, travelers, interlopers, traders, and farmers, explorers, bounty hunters, pirates, and you strange glowing entities out there. Viking, Korvax, and Gek. May the Atlas allow my voice to fall on every strange ear, and that this space transmission reaches every corner of every galaxy and every dimension. Today, we are broadcasting from the Euclid Galaxy, somewhere deep in space. This is the morning show on Cobra TV. Call in. Let's make contact. The song we are listening to today is called Sinkhole Dream by the 129ers. Good morning, all you lovely Cobros out there. I'm gonna stay off camera today. I'm gonna change it up and stay off camera. Plus, there's gonna be some things I'm gonna put on the screen here that I want people to kind of look at. So I tweeted something over on Twitter, and some people, they like to subtract words from your statements, and they like to, I don't know, just ignore what they want to ignore and see what they want to see. But some of the slides have come back from Inez and his speech at the GDC. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And so the entire talk was about No Man's Sky. Literally, the entire talk was about the procedural generation of No Man's Sky. All of it. From talking about the hierarchy of, changing things from the solar system and how it affects everything down from the planet down to the surface in the trees and things like that. I mean, okay, let's get into this. Now I'm going to state the quote that I did over Twitter here too. I used the word may. May. I didn't confirm anything. Although people just like to get that those little hairs tied up in little knots, and I like to argue on the internet for some reason. Man, I swear. What's wrong with people? So no, while there's no video yet, we got slides. Slides of Inez talking points. Okay. Now, I see the point in somebody saying that they were using example of procedural generation, but with No Man's Sky, you don't need to use an example of procedural generation when you're talking about No Man's Sky's procedural generation, because you got enough examples of procedural generation when you're talking about No Man's Sky. And when that's the topic that you're supposed to be talking about is No Man's Sky, and why you changed the procedural generation engine after launch, because that's what the talk was about. All right. The update Somebody said the update's in May. I don't think they would do that to the Xbox. I was thinking about it. 73 blocks from Allison Smith. We had a subscriber that actually walked up to their door, Danny, and knocked on the door, and they let him in, and he got to take pictures with them. So try it out. Who knows? Just don't scare him. Harris, one of our subscribers, he did that. He walked up and said, "Hey, can I come in and see you guys?" And they let him in. He even got to see Miss Noodles. But anyways, I want to go and talk about these slides real quick. We're not going to be on too long today, guys. And to the defense of Negative Nancy that came out, who ignored the word May. And, you know, to his defense, he could be right. Oh, I see, Sword. I see. I'm just a goofball. Starman, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Starman says, I'm sorry, guys. I'm still sick. Starman says, I could go to Hello Games in 15 minutes. Judging on the past death threats and things like that, I wouldn't, I don't know if I'd do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. And like I said, going to the person's defense, it could be unrelated to No Man's Sky during a talk about No Man's Sky and its own procedural generation. Maybe. No, they're not getting me down. I think it's funny. And I don't think he's trolling. I think it's just some people are inherently I think they feel the need to argue, to disagree. We've got oh gosh. All right. I should probably take that call, but I'm not gonna. Okay, so where was I? Going to his defense, it could be unrelated. But let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's give a little bit of backstory, guys. We're going to go into a little bit of backstory, and we're going to read something from a while back. All right, so this is a interview with Sean Murray and Grant Duncan, and this was posted, wow, December 10th, 2013 at 5 p.m. 2013. Okay, so here they are talking about their game. It's real interesting. I made a video about this article back then. And what they say here, what's important here is you're using procedural stuff for the art and the world and the bedrock, but do you procedurally generate mechanical stuff like puzzles? Sean Murray then says, there's a thing that Dave, Ream, Hello Games creative director, and I were talking about. We have rooms that are procedurally generated, but I wanted to make them like little dungeons and occasionally put them in there. So that's something that we've been talking about that I really like the idea of. Little dungeons with procedurally generated rooms, right? You remember that from a long, long time ago. Let me go back over to the chat and see what you guys are saying. You guys remember that? We didn't get him, though. Just a quick drive-by greeting. What's up, Star Geezer? That's a cool name. All right. So with that said, you know, we gave a little bit of backstory that all the way back in 2013, they talked about dungeons. Now, here we go. This is a big May, as it was stated over on Twitter. So let's go ahead and get into what I wanted to talk about today. Wrong screen. Okay, here it is. Here's the screen. All right, so we're going to turn this off. So here's some slides from Inez talk. Moving parts, problem solving for update procedural generation, Inez. So he's here talking about what they had to do with the procedural generation in No Man's Sky. Then it goes on to talking about top-down generation. He talks about the solar system, how it affects lush planets, frozen planets, dead planets, the life level, the terrain, the inhabitants, the creatures, the foliage, the buildings. Sounds pretty spot on, like they're talking about No Man's Sky still, right? At least to me it does. I don't know. But then what really got me kind of like, ooh, is the next screen that Inez showed. Top-down generation, example now of dungeons, first floor, second floor, third floor, room, corridor, enemies, treasure, decoration. Now that could be unrelated during its speaking, talking about procedural generation of the game that he came there to talk about. It could be unrelated. So I will come to the defense of that person on Twitter. Could be. Highly unlikely. It looks like dungeons are still in their mind. Do I think they're going to be an update? I have no idea. But it's cool that they're talking about it again, right? It's cool that they're talking about it again. And then here's a little bit more insight to dungeons. Creative systems dependent on other systems. Carpets and curtains change. Compartmentalize. Refractor generation hierarchy. Move knowledge upstream. Dungeon floor, enemies, treasure, layout, room, and so on. So they could be, he could be giving an example of a different game while he's talking about No Man's Sky. But I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys. But, like I said before, may be getting dungeons. Not we are getting dungeons. I come back to the chat and you guys are still talking about PSVR. I talk about... I come back to the chat and there's no talk about dungeons. I see PSVR and VR all over the chat. You guys are crazy. Yeah, it's just classic example of easily. Yes, it could be. It could be. So a classic example. So let's go over to the classic. Let's take a look at another classic example. Is this a classic example of a different game? Top-down generation, solar system, lush planet, frozen planet, dead planet, terrain. Is that an example of a different game? I would guess not. Not that one. But look, I come back and you guys are talking about VR still. Where's Emily? Oh, gosh. VR. That's all you guys... Oh. You guys are talking about VR like crazy. Well, if you guys want to come on the show, just go ahead and send me the number one on Skype. I'll pull you on here, kicking and screaming. No, that he said, no, that's the No Man's Sky example. That's funny. I guess with with things that we want, I guess we pick and choose. Dungeons would be pretty cool. I'm not saying that it's part of the update or anything like that. I mean, Hello Games wouldn't even consider dungeons. there's this thing that Dave Ream, Hello Games creative director, and I were talking about. We have rooms that are procedurally generated, but I want to make them like little dungeons and occasionally put them in there. So that's something that we've been talking about that I really like the idea of. Hello Games wouldn't think of dungeons. Loot. Yes, we need loot. Oh, we got a donation from Sword. Thank you so much, buddy. You are a Cobra. You are a Cobra. Thank you, Sword. I go back to the chat and I see nothing but VR again. And people are making me feel guilty about rooms underground. You guys are amazing. You really are. You guys are awesome. Dungeons would be really cool, especially if they're really going to put some kind of treasure and stuff like that down there. What would be really cool is if we had like some kind of campaign maker, you know, that we could create our own campaign with the assets in the game. And I think a lot of you guys have actually talked about that here on the channel. Let's see. Infinite Lightning says hashtag sword. Yes, definitely hashtag sword. It's a tech demo. Other RPGs would use dungeons and use this method in procedural generation. Same thing with the solar system top-down generation screen too. Procedurally generated dungeons could just mean all space stations will now be unique. It's cool to entertain the thought. I don't think it's as dangerous as entertaining the VR thought. Oh, but or the multiplayer thought or any thought at this point. But I don't know. I mean, you got to think Atlas Rises was pretty big and we didn't speculate enough. And they're claiming that Next is bigger than Atlas Rises. So I don't know, man. I guess we should reevaluate. I should reevaluate and hang up my carpets and curtains sign around my chest and just hunker down and wait for that. I mean, I'm not going to get disappointed if I don't get carpets and curtains. So I guess that would be the safest bet. $11:14 a.m. Okoto.
Hello.
Whoa, I got too many speakers on right now. What's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. I actually was taking a quick break from work and saw I got a chance to be on the morning show. So
That's freaking
thought
awesome.
I would. How are you, man?
Awesome, man. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I had a little bit of bait dangled in front of my face today when I seen the screens for Inez's talking points, and I saw the dungeons, and I thought to myself, wow, dungeons. And then I say on Twitter, I said, maybe, we may be getting those dungeons after all, or something like that. But I used may. I didn't confirm it or anything like that, because I'm not sure. And, a lot of people are saying that that's an example. But the whole speech was about No Man's Sky. I mean, the entire speech.
Exactly. And why would he have chosen the backgrounds that he did for those slides, too?
Yeah.
If we weren't possibly be getting them. And the thing is, and I was watching when you were going over the slides there, when you're talking about procedurally generated dungeons, it's actually, and I keep going back to games like Minecraft, because if you look at, the king of procedural generation, it's got to be Minecraft. It really does. And there's mods out there where you can do roguelike dungeons. They do dungeons in vanilla, and it's not something that's all that terribly difficult to actually implement. And if you're talking about something to use with multiplayer, adding in like that MMO kind of co-op dungeon thing would be a perfect first step. Because, I mean, if you play World of Warcraft, or you play ESO, or you play, any kind of MMO, co-op dungeons are a big thing. That's like some guilds' focus is co-op dungeons or co-op raids and things like that. So if we're going to be getting an expansion to co-op, it would only make sense that you would have dungeons being a big piece of that. Now, whether it's, Sentinel controlled dungeons, or you're going to go, the cowardly Viking have set up a dungeon underneath this observatory and you need to go, roust them out because they don't want to fight for the glory of the Great Hurk, or whatever it happens to be.
Right.
It would make an awful lot of sense because there's enough lore in the game where you could actually set that up now. And the fun part is, if you look at things like some of the operations centers or the manufacturing centers and things like that, where you find the new lore from 1.3 that occasionally, like it'll say underneath this manufacturing center, there are fake Viking being made. You need to go stop them. That's one of the actual lore missions that's in there currently right now. So rather than just going to the operations center and shutting it down, you go to the operations center, find that, it would give you a mission. You go down an elevator, and now you're in the actual manufacturing facility where they're making fake Viking, and you've got to stop whatever it is or whoever it is from doing it. It would make an awful lot of sense, and I don't see why, if that wasn't going to be a thing in No Man's Sky next, that he would have used the No Man's Sky screenshots. He would have used different screenshots. He would have used generic screenshots. But no, he chose No Man's Sky backgrounds. So yeah, I find that very compelling.
Right. And when you think about, it's something that they talked about in the past, like very specifically talked about dungeons. But when you think about how Sean Murray said that this is the biggest update to date, this is the biggest one so far, right? And then you think, considering dungeons is a dangerous thing to consider, like dungeons, compared against Sean Murray's tweet that this is the biggest update. Mm-hmm. I racked my brain. I was working at overnight, and I'm sitting there thinking, what could they possibly add to this game that would make it bigger than Atlas Rises? What is it that they have that they're so excited about that Sean Murray says he's got surprises for us? What is it? And when you think about, oh my gosh, what could it possibly be? VR? Multiplayer? Like super multiplayer? And that's the two things that a lot of people consider. That I mentioned dungeons, and I'm wrong. A small teeny tiny feature that I really hope that they kind of implement, a tiny feature of dungeons. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, we're wrong. We're always wrong about what's in the update. Atlas Rises, we were guessing. We thought we were over guessing, but we were under guessing. And so dungeons may not be in the game. They did want it at one point in time, and Inez brought it up during GDC, and it might be there, might not, but I don't think it's as dangerous considering dungeons as it is considering VR or multiplayer. Dungeons
would be a lot easier to implement. It's the generation for that has been around for years, so it's not something that would be all that terribly difficult. One of the things I've speculated about on my stream is, and I've got 2 words for you. I know we got 2 words for chat. Imagine this: cooperative city building. Think about that for just a second. So not just base building, but let's say they do implement some of the things you see in MMOs, like there's a guild system or a fleet system or whatever it is. I know in EVE, I think it's fleets. In World of Warcraft, it's guilds. Imagine if you had the ability to create a group of people that were in the same area, that based on the number of people you had in your guild or fleet or whatever you want to call it, would get more space to build bases to the point where you're building cities.
That would be cool. And I would actually, like, if they're going to do multiplayer, I want them to go all the way out and do like hub integration, to where that could be an official function. Claim a region and start populating it and have it have multiplayer features that are going to accommodate having a hub and being part of a hub. And one of those things would be to, populate one of those planets or some of those planets with multiple bases and, like you said, kind of like cities.
Mm-hmm. Or you could, with, with Foundation or Pathfinder, whichever one, introduced freighters. Imagine that instead of being able to build cities on planets, you could cooperatively build a space station. That's something else that might be a thing.
Yeah.
So
during the 60 questions interview with IGN, I think it was 60 questions or 70 questions or something like that, they said, "Can you build a space station?" And he said, "No." I like that idea.
See?
So that's a possibility. We got a new caller on the show. We got Austin. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Cobra?
It's going good, man. It's going great. So what do you think about my tiny little dungeon theory here, stacked up against all the other VR and multiplayer theories?
I personally would prefer dungeons over VR. I think it kind of makes sense too, because Hello Games listens to the community, and like when we first got the multi-tool, what is it, the terrain manipulator, you could the first thing everyone did was like take their bases underground, and it made bat caves, and and I think Hello Games probably noticed things like that. So
right, have you seen the guys over at the TOG, how they made that base in the actual center of the planet? Like mathematically at the core.
Oh, no, I didn't see that one. I saw the one you did with the submarine that was under. I saw that one, but no, I didn't see the one. No.
Yeah, these guys at the TOG, man, they're doing some crazy, crazy things. They found some way to glitch and just keep on building down towards the center of the planet. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that it's almost like maybe we're thinking too small, because I think I've mentioned this before when I've been on here, is that every single one of these updates we've speculated about, and in every single case, they've gone above and beyond what we've considered as far as what an update would be. When they announced Foundation, we're like, oh, the foundation of base building. Okay, so you'll have the ability to maybe, make a basic a couple of structures in front. No, not just a couple of structures. You can now make farms. You can now have all this decoration.
Right.
Oh, by the way, you can buy freighters now. It's like, holy crap. So, So I'm thinking maybe we're speculating too small on things like basic VR or sort of a minor expansion of multiplayer. I honestly, I wouldn't put it past them that we could do things like build our own space stations, cooperative bases. Claim hubs, create entire civilizations.
I agree.
I don't know. Create Dyson spheres.
I completely agree, because we learned a lesson last time with Atlas Rises. We didn't speculate enough. A lot of that stuff completely surprised us. Hashtag Michael Haynes in the chat for the donation. Thank you so much, Cobra. I really do appreciate that, man. I'm sorry I got to you too late. Sorry, buddy. But hashtag Michael in the chat, guys. He's a Cobra. But I agree with you, Okoto. I think we're thinking too small. But it's really difficult to sit there and think, what could it be? To stay grounded, I usually stick with what I know. I know that they want to improve the multiplayer. They said it in their blog post with Atlas Rises. It was the beginning, the first step, and now they're saying that this is the next step. So it kind of makes me feel like that's a clue that they're going to continue that multiplayer, because I feel like if they don't, even in a minor way, like something with multiplayer, avatars or something, that people are going to be like, what about your blog post with Atlas Rises? You didn't come through. Another lie. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like their feet are kind of held to the flames if they don't want to do it. If they do want to do it, then great. But they kind of started it by saying that in their blog post. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I don't think he would have tweeted that out if they didn't have something like a co-op dungeon or like a co-op base building or avatar creation. I think a lot of this is almost a certainty at this point that they're going to have increased co-op. I honestly think that cross-platform play is also either on the way or is going to be in this next one.
Man, I wish, but Sony, I don't think they want to do that cross-platform, man.
Well, no, Sony does not. But the thing is that they could just at this point they could just tell Sony, you know what, either get on the bus or we're going to leave you in the dust. That's all there is, because we're going to do cross-platform between Xbox, PC, and Tencent. Period. End story. This is what we're doing. If you want on this train, you better get on now. And the thing is that with the success of the updates they put out, do they have the clout to basically tell Sony, thanks a lot for the help, we appreciate it, but if you don't want on this train, then you can get off now, because
they wouldn't even have to say that. All they'd have to do is just go ahead and say, all right, Microsoft, well, let's just go ahead and do crossplay. We don't need Sony's permission. Let's just do it with each other. And then people are going to be looking at Sony and be like, why are you leaving us behind, dude? I'm going to go with Xbox next time.
Which is a shame, because most of the people that I hang out with, like Stretchy Cat and Guyver and a bunch of other people on Twitch, I would love to be able to do co-streams with them and just sort of like wander around and hang out and do stuff. But I'm on PC, so I don't have the ability to do that. I can't crossplay with them. So the best we can do is talk on Discord. We can't see each other. We can't go to each other's systems. We can't do any of this stuff because there's no cross-platform. And Sony has... I mean, look at all the exclusives for Sony that have come out in the last couple of years here. Exclusive to Sony. I would love to play Horizon Zero Dawn, but I can't get it because I don't have PlayStation 4. So, I mean, and that it's in some ways it helps because it helps them because people want to play these games, so they go buy their system. But on the other hand, it is also hurting because they're basically cutting out a huge potential source of revenue by not having it on Steam or not having it on other platforms, because there's people like me. I drool over Horizon Zero Dawn. I really want to play that game, but I'm not going to go pay $400 for a freaking PS4 or $200 or whatever it is now. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. So if you release it for Steam, I will be the first person in line to go buy your game. But they're shooting themselves in the foot in a lot of ways, because Steam PC users are probably always going to outnumber people that have consoles, because honestly, you can go out and get a gaming PC for $300 and you can keep it forever and run pretty much anything. Whereas the PS4 is only going to be good for 5, 6, 7 years, and then you got to go buy a new one. So if that,
that's true, man. I'm surprised they haven't gone the way of selling one unit and it's upgradable. From there on, and they sell graphics cards that only work in PS4. We've got a new caller on the show. We got Tyler. Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Cobra. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Just chilling out on the morning show here, talking to Akodo, and I'm glad to have you on. What brings you on today?
Well, I just came on to speculate, just like the rest of us,
Yeah.
I was the one the other day that I was the nutcase that thought that Ware was real at first, if you recall.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, man. I was there too for a fleeting moment.
But man,
well, hold on. It might be. You never know.
Exactly. There were some comments made during I think it was the evening show on Tuesday. About how it could be. So, I'm not 100% like I first was. I'm now like 60-40. So, but I'm just super excited. Whatever they have, whether it be VR, multiplayer, dungeons, it'd be great if we could have all those things. It'd just be massive.
Yeah, totally, dude. I mean, it's hard to think about this is the first time where we really only have the multiplayer to actually go on for something that might be a possibility. Usually when we're getting an update, we've got all these leads, all these clues that are pretty spot on. We had clues and leads for Atlas Rises, but there were more things that we weren't even expecting. And
right.
some
now,
of those clues
now
came
it's just
true.
like throwing us for a loop. It's just, they've I forget who said it, but somebody said they've got 1 foot in real world and 1 foot in the fictional. So it's like it's hard to tell what's real, what isn't, what's it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, it does, man. It really does. I can't think, but outside of multiplayer or VR, what could possibly be added to this update that could make it bigger than Atlas Rises?
What about sprawling cities or things like that? Something that could really just spice up the game a lot more than just going to a planet and having the depots or trade posts or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
and
all of that
stuff like that.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, you see, the problem is when you start thinking about what could be in there, your mind starts going into. You go from something as simple and small and tiny as a dungeon, all the way to sprawling cities, and you're like, "Whoa, I'm all the way out in No Man's Sky left field. This is like super speculation." And it's just like,
but it could happen.
The biggest update. Yeah, it could happen. They got the guy from Lion's Head who's doing he specializes in procedurally generated cities. He's there. I don't know what he's doing there, but maybe he's working on a different game. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It could happen. We've got a new caller on our show. Francis, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
I'm doing great, man. Doing awesome. Just chilling out with some Cobras here, talking about No Man's Sky. And I don't know, man. Just speculating.
Yeah, no, it's cool to speculate, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes,
epic.
it is. As long as you're well grounded. There's some people out there that have been mad for almost 2 years. This is freaking crazy, man.
Tyler,
I've got a couple of ideas, of course.
Sure, buddy. Go ahead. I want to hear them.
I was thinking about, like, now that the game is generating the planets and the systems, what if they could, like, use, like, a type of template that you could do at the beginning of the game, so you could make your own system. Like you have now it's all random, and what if you could like go to like a side program in the game which lets you fill in like a percentage Earth to water for a planet, or even your system, the configuration of your system, like 4 planets, 1 moon, stuff like that. Like you can fill it in. And at a default, it would be like all random. And if you just don't have much time to do that, you can just like put in the amount of planets and moons and either go in there, then the moon, Earth to water ratio, life, hostile, yes, no, sentinels, have like a whole program to generate a system like you want it to. And then if you go into like the galactic map, all you need to do is find like an undiscovered system, and then use that template. So the first time you jump into that, the computer generates the system the way you liked it. And that would be like your own system. You made that system. That would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, that would be cool, man. That really, really would be. Another lead that we have about No Man's Sky is kind of like the undertone of the first run with Waking Titan was that they didn't really say this, but it kind of felt like they were trying to say that Loop 15 was the current state of No Man's Sky, and Loop 16 was going to be the next. And Loop 16, we allowed her to live. We voted for her to stay alive, and she, in turn, was the Atlas. And now we've got this where. And this where is attacking Loop 16. And Loop 16 is now asking for help. So, are we seeing the version that we have of No Man's Sky that we have now being killed again, and that there's going to be something else, a new version of No Man's Sky, like another revamp like we got with Atlas Rises?
I think that's safe to say, yeah. With just the title of it, Next, implies that it's like a new level. So you just don't know what they're going to do. I just hope it's going to be very interactive with the community. That's what I'm hoping for, because in that way that the game is going to live on for maybe even years. Like
right.
Minecraft and stuff like even GTA with their race builder. I mean, that just keeps on going, and the creativity of the community is pretty important, I think, to let a game grow and live on through the years.
Yep. I'm going to, I'm going to stick with my gut feeling that this is essentially like if you were to have a No Man's Sky 2, right? This is a new version of No Man's Sky. That's why they're calling it Next, maybe. And that they said it's free for existing players, which means we don't have to go out and buy the new version of No Man's Sky. We get it because we own the current version of No Man's Sky. You see what I'm saying? So I kind of look at it like a relaunch almost. I don't want to actually say relaunch, but let's say, I got some people that work at GameStop as friends, and they're telling me that they're getting new copies of No Man's Sky in with the cellophane still wrapped on it, and they're immediately getting marked down. They're getting them in, they're marking them down. It's almost like GameStop is selling through their stock because new stock is going to be coming in. No Man's Sky Next. And I think that is going to be marketed differently, marketed as a newer No Man's Sky. And we, as existing players, we get it for free. I think that's why they even bothered mentioning that existing players get it for free. Because why even mention it?
Yeah. I think it's a new evolution of the game.
Essentially, yes, yeah. Panda, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on, Cobra?
Nothing much, man. You got anything to comment on what I said? I'm going. I've got the tinfoil hat on, man, and I'm bleeding speculation out of my ears and eyes, and slobbering it.
Hey, I don't really think what anybody's saying really is a whole lot of speculation. I think there's a lot of evidence out there for it. Also, you mentioned earlier about how all the updates, or at least someone did mention earlier about how all the updates have been more than what we've expected them to be every time.
Right.
GDC, they share they have a vault. So you can go to their website and you can download their presentation decks, stuff like that. So even if a video doesn't necessarily come out on YouTube, you can usually get the information that's accessible. You can go to GDC right now and get that Ennis McKendrick talk, which means that there's nothing in that talk that they didn't already want you to know. So they know that this conversation is going to take place about dungeons and what that means and how the procedural generation is going to change, because that's what they want. The really juicy stuff, the stuff that is really going to surprise you, like Sean Murray said, are the things that are not in that talk that talk alludes to, like potentially, a new way of doing buildings, or expanding on the inside of buildings, or like the guy earlier mentioned, space stations. And I think that that's something to get really excited about. There's somebody, I don't think it's TOG related. It might be NMS Cafe, but there's somebody who found a planet that if you zoom out far enough in photo mode, you can actually see 3 bases all within, a minute walk from each other or something like that. So he invited people to that planet to all claim bases to see if you can see each and every base, and you can see all 3 bases. So the sort of base infrastructure to have multiple buildings in a specific space close together so that it looks like a small colony is kind of already there. So I would imagine that not only are they going to have more of a subterranean element in this next update, but they're also going to have, maybe some sort of aquatic type vehicle to take advantage of the depth of the oceans. and that they might incorporate some sort of procedural city with points of interest where you might have to go talk to someone, or they might, enhance the inside of space stations and your freighter, for example, with this procedural sort of dungeon method, so that there's more places for the player to explore. And so I think a lot of those points actually are founded and not entirely speculation at all. Really, the only speculation that's true speculation that I see is the talk about VR, which if they ever did implement that would just be a feature. I don't think that they would place any major importance over VR as compared to dungeons or buildings or anything like that. So I don't think it's all that tinfoil.
Yeah, I'm not
I think
sure.
you're onto something.
I think you are too. I think you are too. I don't know. I just get scared. You know what I mean? You know, especially I mentioned the dungeons thing, and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. I really shouldn't have said that. But wait a minute. Everybody's talking about VR, and I mentioned something tiny like a dungeon. I think it's safe to mention the speculation of a dungeon. I think so.
I agree. Kuzwalt brought up something a little bit earlier that I wanted to touch on. I think Francis has brought up with being able to build your own system. It could also tie in with the End Atlas mission where you create a star. So let's say in that End Atlas mission, rather than just creating the star and then moving on, you create the star, but then it sort of gives you a system builder blueprint map where you can actually, what type of star do you want, how many planets, how many moons, so on and so forth. So I think that would be something that you could also work in, and that would actually work in with the current lore of the game too. So you could have it both ways. You could have a star builder. We'll say you get advanced enough with technology that you know how to, create systems on your own. But the intro to that is finishing the Atlas quest. And then that sort of leads you into sort of like almost gated progression. It's a tutorial teaching you how to actually build the system. And then later on, you can replicate that when you go to the next galaxy or whatever it happens to be.
That would be awesome, man. Being able to make your own system, make your own ships, and leave it up to more the community to come up with wild stuff. Because I've seen stuff on the NMS Cafe also that's just mind-boggling. I mean, there are people out there making stuff that's unbelievable. And imagine all the things you could see. Different planets also, new types of ships made by people from the community. The sky's the limit. If they can make that happen, of course.
And I think they can. I think not only do I think they can, I think they want to. And that's the big thing here is that when you're talking about a game like this, it's where's the want to? Do they want to do all of these things? And just based on everything we've seen with Howard Hughes Murray, they want to do all of this stuff. They want to do all of these things that we speculate about and crave, shipbuilding and freighter building and capital ships and cooperative base building and system generation. I think they want to do all of that. I think that that's going a long way towards keeping the game fresh and making it a game where it's just your imagination is the only limit to what you can do. And that's what makes me feel really good.
Alex in the chat saying something sense. What do you make of the Fleetwood Mac video, Dreams video found in the robots .text on Where? You guys know about that?
No, I don't know what that is.
I know nothing about that, and I just got indigestion when I heard it, because now I'm going to go look.
Yeah, check it out for me. I don't want to mess around too much on the computer because everything will crash. Curious, robot.text.txt on Where? I don't know.
Sounds interesting. That just...
I can't exactly look at it right now because I'm driving, but I really want to so bad.
I'm making dinner. I can't.
Let me see. Oh, God. Tristan, thank you so much for the donation. More future alien technology to craft. Thank you so much. Hashtag Tristan in the chat there, guys. Captain Money Baker says that's how it should be. Well, I don't know what Monday's Baker's saying. I hope the game, Ruse says, I hope the game will be well optimized on release, especially if they bring a complete overhaul on the game. That's another thing. Reminded me of another topic is a lot of people think that the No Man's Sky Next is going to release before Xbox. I really don't think it will. There was a lot of controversy over PS4 releasing a week before the PC because they didn't want to get spoiled for them. And I don't know if I'd consider Next coming out before Xbox or if they would just both release on the same day. What do you guys think?
I think they'll do it before Xbox. I don't know exactly why. I just think that they would. You know, I don't have any rhyme or reason behind it.
I think it would be smart to release it before the Xbox version because players can report any issues with the update. But I don't think they're going to.
Plus, if it's a significant change in the game and it is a game changer, right? Then Xbox One consumers would feel at ease to buy it. I went to a video and I saw the most toxic comments from the some Xbox people in the comment section on a video. I was just like, wow. Like every single comment was like, oh, they're bringing this trash to the Xbox. They can keep that trash away. Don't do that. You know, I can't recall like some of the things that they were saying, but it was I was in a negative mood by the time I got done reading some of those. It was crazy. So maybe that would be a good idea to kind of release it if it is a game changer before it's available. Before No Man's Sky is available for Xbox,
right? Because then people could see it. Yeah, that's all right. Because then people could actually see what the update has done, and that could change their mind as to whether they want to buy the game on Xbox or not.
Gold and Silver says if Next is ready, why delay the Xbox release? That's a good point too.
I personally think they will release it for PS4, PC, Tencent users prior, like a week before, for reasons Tyler was stating. I think we're all going to be basically like final beta testers just to make sure there aren't any, game-breaking issues that we have to worry about. And one of the whole reasons that there was so much backlash from releasing it the way they did last time is because of the hype train, and the hype train's not there now. So the huge amounts of hype for the game that were created by Reddit and other places just isn't there as much as it was before. So I think they're pretty much safe in releasing it slightly earlier than they do for Xbox One X, just for those exact reasons, because they want to make sure, we tested this, we've got it in a development environment, everything seems fine. However, whenever you release any kind of piece of software into the wild, you're going to find issues with it. So I think we're there to do the final beta test to make sure there's nothing like when 1.3 hit and you had like the quest bug where all of a sudden your quest would be 700,000 light years away and you couldn't get to it, and they had to do like 1.36, I think, that finally fixed that. I think they're trying to avoid that, especially going to the new platform, so that we're going to be the ones that are going to be actually just the final check to make sure everything's cool, like our community, because we're invested in the game. We want to make sure it succeeds. So I think we're the final check before they go live with Xbox One X, so that they can do any kind of hot fixes real quick within, like, say, a week before that. So if the street date for it is the 24th, which is what I think we were talking about the other night, then I wouldn't be at all surprised if right around July 16th, 17th, you see all of a sudden there's a massive update on Steam or on PSN or whatever it is.
What's going to be interesting is, and I agree with you, going to be interesting is seeing how Xbox is going to market this game, right? So we've seen already that Xbox is not afraid to get out there and say, we're getting No Man's Sky. Check this out. We're getting this. We're getting that. I want to see what kind of ad campaign they're going to do as time gets closer.
It's going to be really exciting because 505 Games, like if you look at their thread, there's a lot of positivity in their No Man's Sky posts. A lot of people are really excited to see this game on Xbox. And any person that's come in there and really said anything negative, 505 Games just straight away, I disagree. We don't believe that. We're really excited. They're standing by it. Xbox is standing by it. They're pushing it. I think the ad campaign is going to have a lot of support, not only behind the developer, but behind the publisher or the game console, and also behind the distributor for it. Like Sony, for as much as I like PlayStation, they really threw No Man's Sky under the bus when things got sour. And unfortunately, the negative people scream louder than the positive ones for whatever reason. You could make a really great video about all the great things about No Man's Sky right now. You're lucky if you get 3,000 or 4,000 views. But if you say Sean Murray lied, No Man's Lie, all this kind of stuff, and then you make a negative video about it, you might get 200, 300,000 views. People flock to just negativity. And I like that Xbox and 505 Games have kept a positive light on this whole thing. And they're not just allowing people to badmouth the game. And if you notice, Sean Murray posted the other day about or at least Hello Games did, about how overwhelmed they are about the positive, the positivity and the support behind this next update and behind coming to Xbox. So I think that that's an important step for them moving forward, that they actually have companies that are backing them up and standing by their title, and that they're not just going to get thrown 3 sheets to the wind on that.
Yeah. And I think 505 Games knows what they got. I think they know that this is not the game that everyone's complaining about. This is something, they said this is the biggest update so far. So I think 505 Games is really confident and touting how great of a idea this is to bring it to Xbox. So it's very calculated. Like they know about the 2016 release. So for them to be this confident about it, that should get everybody really excited. Yeah, it should. I mean, that's the biggest thing that's got me excited, is the fact that 505 Games is excited. They're hyped to get this on Xbox. But with Sony, you mentioned throwing them under the bus when things went sour. Man, they threw them under the bus from the get-go. They gave them the stage a couple of times at E3. Yeah. But they did not market this game. They didn't get the word out. They could have, and they didn't until right at the very end. They started doing heavy campaign, like 2 weeks out, and it's like, maybe 3 weeks out. I'll give them 3 weeks. I won't give them the 4 weeks, but about 3 weeks out. I did this video where I would approach random people on, I think it was Omegle. And I asked them, I said, hey, are you a gamer? Do you game at all? And people would be like, yeah. And I would say, you ever heard of a game called No Man's Sky? Everybody said no. Everybody said no. No one knew what this game was. And they said, there's a lot of people saying that this game was like one of the most hyped games. I couldn't find anybody outside of my YouTube channel, like in public, that knew about this game. Nobody I worked with, none of my friends, nobody knew what No Man's Sky was. And that's Sony's fault. And so I'm really excited to see what 505 is going to do with the ad campaign. I'm super excited.
Well, and you know what's really shady about Sony? They don't publish their player numbers on a certain game. So if you look at the reviews on No Man's Sky on the PlayStation Store, it has like almost like 5 stars or whatever it is, like player rating. Most of the people that play No Man's Sky are on PlayStation 4. It's a very small percentage of them that are actually on PC, but we don't know an exact number. You have to look at the sales reports of the total sales of No Man's Sky copies, physical and digital, on PlayStation to get even an idea of like who's playing.
Right.
But the PC, the Steam player community is very small compared to the PlayStation 4 community. Like Sony took this money. They took this money. They took a percentage of that from Hello Games. They all got themselves some bonuses, and they didn't have to defend the game. They didn't have to go to bat for just a small developer. Had it been EA or somebody, maybe they would have came out and offered some kind of support. But it's Hello Games. It's 9 people in a closet in a rainy city in England somewhere. You know, so they took the money and they just said, hey, this was your game. You guys figure it out. You know, they could have put numbers out there when people were saying, hey, this game is dead. No one plays. They could have put numbers out there. We sold X amount of copies on PlayStation 4. There's this many people playing at one time. Like 250,000 people participated in the Waking Titan ARG when it kicked off. Those aren't small numbers. That's not insignificant.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people that play this game and they're being drowned out by the no and, you know, the negativity on all the different forums and the YouTube chats and all this other kind of stuff, Reddit, you know, and it's like they're being drowned out by that. But there's actually a very loyal and good sized player community for this game. So Xbox is already doing better than Sony, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I do.
Yeah,
So,
and being one of those PC players, I have seen the numbers on Steam where it's like, oh, no one plays this game. I'm like, no. There's a small player base on Steam because, once again, it was released on PS4 first and basically ported over to PC. So you're always going to have, as far as this current iteration of the game, you're always going to have more people that play on PS4 than you do on Steam. And when I see people either in videos or on streams who are like, well, this is a dead game and no one plays it and it's terrible and so on and so forth, it just, it gives me this like Pavlovian response where I want to start like screaming expletives at them because they're not looking at the real numbers. They're looking at the Steam numbers, and the Steam numbers are never going to be correct. They're never going to be reflecting the actual player base. Like you said, 250,000 people participated in Waking Titan. That's almost a third the size of the city I live in. So, I mean, and I live in a big major city in the United States. I live in Denver. So that's a third of the people that live in Denver Metro. So, I mean, when you think about it that way, it's like that's a ton of people that are in an ARG for a supposedly dead game. And
yeah.
Where the numbers that you're pulling up aren't accurate because Sony won't release them, and all you're looking at is the Steam numbers.
Right. And, you know, when you got 250,000 people participating in an ARG, most of the people that play No Man's Sky don't really care about the ARG. They just want the updates or whatever. They don't really care to participate, or the kickoff of the ARG is just a signal to them that something is coming, but they don't actively participate. So there's an even larger swath of players who don't care and about the ARG. The ARG is a good indicator. You know, Sean Murray's GDC speech last year, he said that, you know, No Man's Sky is the most played game. I mean, name another game out there where you have people putting 1,000, 2,000 hours into a game that apparently is crap, dead, no one plays it. And I mean, it just, what people say versus the facts don't add. They're alternative facts. A lot of people play No Man's Sky. They're just being drowned out by, you know, the guy who's never played it, who's going off an IGN article 19 months ago, and he's like, it's crap. You know,
speaking of guys who's never played it, we've got an awesome new member inside the chat, Mr. Wales, saying he's new to No Man's Sky, Xbox player. The community for this game seems really awesome. I got to say, so excited. Welcome, Mr. Wales, man. Welcome to the community of No Man's Sky, dude. We're definitely here for you. If you have any questions, just ask anybody in the chat, and a lot of knowledgeable people that can help you with any answers. You know, one of the big questions I see a lot of Xbox people asking, I mean, it's almost the same question almost every time, is I don't like survival games. Can I play this without having to survive? And the answer to that is yes. There's a creative mode. You don't have to worry about surviving or anything like that. And then the normal mode isn't really surviving. It's pretty chill. It's not too much like a survival game. But yeah, creative mode, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to survive. I'm sorry. I just wanted to welcome Mr. Wales, Panda.
Oh no, it probably didn't sound like it, but my rant was done anyway. And yes, welcome, Mr. Wells.
Yes, definitely. Also, welcome. You know, that's what I do. I play in creative mode.
Whenever we find people on Twitter or whatever that are curious about No Man's Sky, let's help them out. Let's encourage them to get it. And then when they get it, let's like boost them, meet up on their planet, leave a comm ball, like these players that are coming in, let's get them to stay. Because like, I don't know about you guys, but I want this game to be around a long time. I don't put anywhere near as much time in any other game, you know. And the more people that play, the more people that buy it, the more people that get involved, the longer this game's going to be around.
Yeah, it definitely. Austin, what's up, buddy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so in the last call when I was on it, my computer crashed. So thanks, Emily. Yeah. But yeah, I'm back now. Cool.
Okay, awesome, man. It's good to have you back, dude. It's good to have you back. Yeah, we were just welcoming Mr. Wells in the chat there and talking about how 505 is going to market No Man's Sky, because I'm interested in seeing some trailers. Come on.
Oh, I know,
see
right?
some trailers, man. I'm going to be able to digest and do a closer look at a trailer like the old days. Come on.
Yeah, all we need is like one screenshot, and you know how satisfied we would be. We'd just be tinfoiling it, you know, just going crazy with it.
Darn right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a 2-hour conversation on my stream about the exotic screenshot when it came out on the Waking Titan stream there at the very end of the ARG when they had the exotic in front of the observatory. That was a 2-hour conversation. So they had a trailer. I could do like a week's worth of streams on that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm perfectly okay with that.
For sure.
Something I was going to mention to Mr. Wales as well. The normal mode of the game is very forgiving. It's not like there is a survival mode, and I play on survival. I've played on permadeath. I've beaten them both, but normal mode is very forgiving. It's not like normal mode in some games where it's sort of kind of hard. It's a very forgiving, just chill exploration experience where you can still get the overall feel of the game for having to go get resources and do things. So it's not as open and as creative, but it's not going. The planet isn't going to kill you as soon as you land on it, like you might in survival permadeath. So
I tell you what, though, survival mode is when I first played that. Well, let's talk about the first one with the whole death loop and the save point. Don't want to talk about that, but as far as the overall survival game mode is amazing. It makes you feel the planet. It makes you feel your environment. It makes you think 2 steps ahead. You're no longer too worried about, oh, that's pretty. Let me go look at this. You are literally surviving. The way survival was done is genius. It is brilliant. I think, I've played survival games before, but survival mode in No Man's Sky is, I can't explain it, man. I have so many memories about, there's a planet that I landed on, and I didn't mean to land there, but I did. And I was on an island, and there's hardly any plutonium on that island. And I could not get off of that planet. And I found just barely enough on that planet to get off. I was on that planet, I think it was like for 3 hours. And it was extreme sentinel, and it was an extreme weather, like high hazard weather. It was killing me, and it was in survival mode, and I didn't want to get. This is back when you could accidentally still get caught in a death loop, so that's probably one of my most fondest memories.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I got about the same story. It's one of the best memories I got in No Man's Sky was on survival. The first time you play it, you're not knowing how difficult it's going to be, and you kind of jump in, and suddenly you find yourself in a place that you can die, and you're feeling all the elements, and you just sit there in your ship thinking of what you're gonna do, and it's the same. It's the same with me. I got the same type of experiences, and you really take it in, and that last minute when you find what you need and you take off of the planet, it's like it's an adventure you did, and you survived it, and you really feel it. And that's really cool. That's a really cool moment in the game. I think they kind of nerfed it with the later updates, because I didn't find it that difficult, or I got used to it, because I've been playing survival and permadeath ever since, and I don't really play normal mode anymore.
I don't know about you guys, but what I've noticed, hey, it's Frag Ninja here, everyone.
Frag Ninja, what's going on, dude? How you doing, man?
I'm not doing too bad. I can't complain. Work's going to be starting up soon, so I'm getting as much No Man's Sky in as I possibly can.
Right.
Broadcasting every second day, I think. But
that's freaking awesome, man. What brings you on today, dude?
Well, I just heard you guys talking about all the hype from from the last release in October and August of 2016. Now, I didn't hear any of the hype. I knew about the game from watching E3 and stuff, and I said, "Oh man, this is exciting." And
Oh, you there,
he
Frag?
didn't even lie. I'm just saying. Like,
Oh, you cut
shit,
out,
dude.
buddy. You cut out. I couldn't hear any of that.
Oh, okay, shitty deal. All right. Well, it's anyway. Like I said, I've been hearing people, talking, saying, well, we're getting all this hype again, and they're not going to deliver and shit. And if anybody ever notices, like if you go back to the release in August of 2016 and you watched all the interviews, not once did he promise anything. He said the game is going to have, but he didn't say it was going to have it upon release. And if you
Right.
look at all
The
the
only-
stuff,
The only mention that he mentioned about features at release was the fact that not all the features are going to be there at release.
that's right.
he
And
said that.
that's right. And I think people just went overboard. And you're right about Sony dropping the ball. But again, it's Sony. Like no other big company, every other big company that did what Sony did would have done exactly what Sony did. They would have just threw the company under the bus and walked the hell away. Doesn't matter if it's EA, doesn't matter if it would have been Square Enix, it wouldn't have mattered if it would have been Rockstar, you name it. They all would have threw the company under the bus, and they just that would have been that. So I hear a lot of flack.
Well, the only flack that I have was the advertisement.
Yes,
That's it. The marketing. That's the only thing. I'm one of those people that I don't think Sony was pressuring them to release it because they were just acting like the publisher, right? Hello Games was actually really pressured by us, the community. I mean, the guy would come out and say, "Hey, I'm going to go take the dog for a walk," and everyone would be like, "Release your game, release it. I don't care if it's broke. I don't care if it's not finished. I'll beta test it. Release it." You know what I'm saying? That's exactly
true.
how the community was acting back then. And
yeah, that's true. I think I got the same vibe at the launch that there was a lot of pressure, and they said like it's going to be an extra 2 months, and it was like the world was going to end. And a lot of games have delays, and a lot more than this. I just saw a YouTube thing from Star Citizen, and that's been like in development for 5 or 6 years now. And I mean, for No Man's Sky, they said it was like delayed for 2 months, and people just lost their shit. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's amazing.
well, that's what I mean. And you got to take a look at the size and scope. Like I'm a developer. I do programming, right? I make games for fun. That's what I do in my spare time. And
We
I'm just
gotta
going to
talk.
tell. Oh yeah. Artwork is done by me. The games are done, like all the programming is done by me. I wrote engines from scratch. I've done all this. Now, let me tell you this. The size and scope of No Man's Sky, developing it is beyond phenomenal. There is no friggin' way.
hey, Frag, you keep cutting out, buddy. Are you going too far away from your Wi-Fi or something?
No, I'm on fiber. I shouldn't be cutting out. That's weird. Well, maybe it's my mic. It's like super ancient. But yeah, like given the size and scope of the game and the amount of developers that were actually working on the game, there's no way the game should even exist in the state it was in August of 2016. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's amazing that they were able to do what they did as fast as they did.
There was a quote that somebody mentioned a couple days ago where they said a YouTuber reviewed the game and he said, No Man's Sky is a sci-fi game. But 20 years ago, the concept of this game would have been sci-fi. The fact that this game exists, that they fit a universe into just a few gigs is literally sci-fi.
Yeah, it is. We are accomplishing what books 20 years ago writing about. Like, I don't know if you guys read any of this, of the cyberpunk stuff back in the 90s. Like, they essentially built, the Matrix. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Also,
The net from
consumers
Neuromancer.
don't know what they want.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the problem with consumerism in video games, if you take a look at the amount of shitty video games are released, we're basically in the same spot we were when E.T. was released. You get a plethora of really shitty games, and you get people jumping all over them, realizing they're shitty, and and then there's more shitty games released. So everyone's trying to cash in on the video game industry as a whole, and eventually we're all going to suffer from it. You know what I mean?
You also have, like, for example, like, not to make a divisive analogy, but like you had Star Wars. Okay, so then you had The Empire Strikes Back, largely hailed as the best of the Star Wars movies. Okay. But when that movie came out, it was very divisive. You can go back to a lot of news articles where fans were split down the middle. They weren't really sure how they felt about it. And after time, it became widely held as probably the best in the franchise. Right. And we're going through the same thing again, but like The Last Jedi. So you've got The Force Awakens that come out. Everybody's excited about it. Okay. And it's a fan service. J.J. Abrams put everything in that movie that Star Wars fans would like. There's lightsabers and there's this and this. It literally felt like A New Hope. Literally, like, beat for beat was basically A New Hope. So the fans say, oh, well, we wanted a Star Wars movie, but this is too much like the other one. So then the director comes out and makes it different. Well, this is too different. The consumer doesn't really know what they want. It's all about, like, the feeling. Sean Murray, when he was marketing No Man's Sky, he said not everything was going to be there on release, that there was a lot of things that they wanted to do in the future. But the main things that he talked about that got people excited for the game was that it's a procedural universe. It's indefinite. There's 18 quintillion planets. You're never going to see it all. You can go from planet to planet. There's going to be all this variation. That's what got people excited. That's what they got, and they hated it. People don't really know what they want. Humans are fickle, and unfortunately, they just get to speak the loudest, and it bothers me.
You're absolutely right. Like, as a developer and as someone who has made video games and who's attempted procedurally generated games, I've made one that sort of worked. The technology in and of itself it should have been the hype, and we should have had more developers jumping on this bandwagon, which is what Sean Murray was hoping. Like, the idea of No Man's Sky was to be, the idea. And he sold it on that. If you pay really close attention to his interviews, he was selling it on that. It's like, look what we can do, human race. We can make fucking universes.
No.
They didn't get it.
He's lost it.
Oh,
guys, I'm going to have to sign off. Thanks for having me on the show, Cobra. Maybe till next time, all right?
Okay, buddy. Yep, definitely until next time, man. It was a pleasure having you on, dude.
Okay, cool. Cheers.
Okay, bye, bro. I don't think anybody's compared No Man's Sky to The Last Jedi. I think people are just bringing up another product entirely different that had backlash. That's it. That's all.
It's a piece of artwork. It again, and you got to understand, a lot of this is also subjective. Like, given the size of the population of the entire planet, the fact that it got as many people to play it as it did is a testament to how well the game is made, right? Because you're going to get, like, for example, if you take some people who are overplaying Final Fantasy and then you throw them in front of Call of Duty, they're going to friggin' hate Call of Duty because they're used to Final Fantasy, right?
Right.
So again, and now you're getting all these people who are thinking that it was supposed to be like Call of Duty in space, and they, of course, are not going to like it because it's not Call of Duty in space. It's No Man's Sky, because people were expecting, something totally different than what they got.
What the interesting thing is about that is that they got Call of Duty in space after that, and it was Infinite Warfare, and it was awful.
Oh, it's terrible.
So
or Destiny 2. Ugh.
Yep. So they got the game they wanted, and it was just universally hated. I find that really. Well, this isn't Call of Duty in space. Okay, well, here's Call of Duty in space. Well, this sucks. Well, yeah, of course it sucks.
But that's what you wanted.
But this is what you wanted. Well, this is what I wanted. Yes, it was. Okay. So there was a developer a long time ago for a CCG that I used to play, where both them and Blizzard. I love when Blizzard comes out and says, when people say, we want vanilla servers, and Blizzard will say, well, you think you do, but you really don't. And it pisses people off. But the thing is, they really don't. They right down to it. They really don't want that. You know how I know that? Is because WoW is still going after 15 years. That's how I know that they don't really want vanilla servers. It's like, hey, you guys, just trust us. We'll we'll put out a product. You'll really enjoy it. We're not going to listen to you because the more of what we put in the game that you supposedly want, the more you're not going to like it because you really don't want that.
Yeah,
So,
you're absolutely right. If you really want to see an excellent example of that, play Destiny 2. I wasted $80 on that piece of garbage.
It's not good.
It's friggin' terrible, man. The content is that the only thing that's good is what's good about Destiny. The controls are fantastic. The gameplay is fantastic. You cannot get any better for a first-person shooter. Destiny 2's mechanic is amazing until they turn it into a glorified slot machine. It is absolutely atrocious.
By the plot line is terrible too.
The first Destiny released like that. The first Destiny was a hot pile of crap. When it came out, it wasn't a game everybody thought it was going to be. They complained to the developer. There was all these issues. People were very disappointed. I don't know how many people remember the original release of Destiny. But what they did was they came out with, the House of Wolves and these 3 like expansions. But they charged you for the expansions unless you got like the one that was like the cut that had everything in it for like $70 or whatever it was, like a year and a half after the game was already out. Yeah. So that game came out as a hot piece of mess that everybody paid $60 for. Then they came out with 3 other expansions for it that cost like 20 something bucks a piece, unless you waited a year and you just bought it all at once for 50, $60. But either way, they were making money fixing all of their errors or the things that should have been in the game from the beginning. So then you have No Man's Sky. Hello Games releases the game. I thought it was technically fine when it came out. I love the release. I love the vanilla copy of No Man's Sky. And the updates are cool. But if you go back and like look at some of your screenshots of like, the tropical planets looked better. I mean, certain aspects of terrain were nicer. You felt more alone. Dead planets were more interesting. It was a good game when it came out, despite what people say. And they've been fixing it for free, but people are still complaining that they haven't charged for any of these like expansions or updates. I mean, it is a drastically different game now. Yeah. And we got what was advertised when it came out, and then now we have even more. And I disagree with anybody who thinks otherwise.
Oh, I've had to deal with a lot of that, like especially when the game first came out. Like I've had the game since day one, and I was broadcasting on YouTube. I'm not going to give my channel because I don't believe in that sort of thing. But anyway, I've been playing it since day one, and I actually miss the original version. But you get so much flack at the time that when you were playing it, you didn't even want it. You didn't want to broadcast. You didn't want to do anything because you were constantly getting inundated by haters. And like if I could give any message out to anybody who's watching YouTube, if you're going to hate on something, why are you wasting my time? Or Cobra's time or whoever. You know what I mean? Go on Twitter, voice your opinion to the developer. Don't beat on the game, the guy who's playing the game who happens to like it. That's just stupid. But I mean, you can never, ever hold the human race accountable for being intelligent. Just saying.
Well, they want you on their bandwagon. They want you to dislike it like they do. It's like they're trying to recruit you in a pyramid scheme of hate.
Absolutely.
Oh, we got a donation from William. Thank you so much, William. You're a Cobra dude. He says, "Love you, Cobra. You are our No Man's Sky News Network. LOL." Thank you, buddy. Everybody hashtag William.
Cobra, I watch every last one of your videos, man.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much, buddy.
Hey, man. I add.
Oh, you cut out, bud.
He's gone.
And
he's gone again.
It's like the worst cell phone network. You're always cutting out.
He's like, oh,
there.
Frag, come back to us, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to mention
your cell phone network to something better.
Yeah,
it's the last time I used Verizon.
Oh, he says Verizon. Everybody, you heard it here. Do not go with Verizon.
No. I used to manage their retail division. Go with Verizon. They're awesome.
Hey, just don't go to Metro PCS.
Oh, see, I'm up in Canada. I'm on Bell. I'm actually on fiber, which is why I've got to check and see what the hell I'm running to figure out why I'm flogging my own bandwidth.
Huh.
Something I was going to mention, Cobra, is I think one of the best things that's happened to No Man's Sky with all of the updates that have been going on is actually another little game that came out about the same time called Subnautica. I think that Subnautica basically gave any kind of, indie, I guess you'd call them an indie company, a blueprint for how to build a game from early access on. Because not only did they come out with it, because I bought the game early access, so I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. I was playing it, and it's fun. And then I discovered that not only did they have a community, but they basically had a website saying, hey, A, what's broken? B, what do you want to see in the game? And people would give their suggestions, and they would incorporate them into the game, but they'd incorporate them in such a way that they were putting their own spin on it, so that it wasn't the straight up, what do we want? Well, here's what you want. This isn't what we want kind of thing. It gave all of these companies like Hello Games and like some of the other indie devs a blueprint on how to build the game in such a way that people would enjoy it, and it would incorporate the things that they wanted in the game. And I think Hello Games, if you look at the way they've sort of been building things as they go on, yeah, they've been very reclusive, but a lot of the things that we've talked about that we wanted in the game make their way in there, but make their way in there with their own spin on it, just like Subnautica did. So I think Subnautica is probably one of the best things that ever happened to indie developers in general, but No Man's Sky in particular, is it sort of gave them the ability, gave them the blueprint for how they should continue updating the game.
That's a really good point.
I was going to piggyback off that, because there's another game that you just made me think of by mentioning that. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's called Prison Architect. And they had a community built up through their alpha phase, and then when they put their own spin on features as well. And then they finally released it, and now look where it's at. It's on, it started out on PC, and now it's on PS4 and Xbox.
Right. I usually use negativity and backlash as a meter that tells me, hey, Cobra, you might like that game. Like right now, Sea of Thieves is getting a lot of hate on the internet. I'm actually considering buying it just because of the backlash, because it's probably a game that I would enjoy.
My brother has it on the Xbox One X, and it is a terrific game. The problem with Sea of Thieves is that, and you could probably say the same thing. Well, before Atlas Rises, you probably could have said the same thing about No Man's Sky. It has a broken progression system. There's nothing that really motivates you to do anything in the game, because you have everything sort of ready at your disposal at the beginning. There's not a reward system that's really fleshed out, and a lot of people have a hard time with that. But it's otherwise a great game if you just want to sail around and go to different islands and sink a ship. It does that pretty well.
That you just described something really amazing. A game where you really have nothing to do, but rely on yourself for entertainment using the game. That's exactly what we do in No Man's Sky a lot of the times. It's what we've been doing since day one. I mean, look at my Traveler's Book of the Galaxy. That's not a game mechanic that's in No Man's Sky. That's just something that I thought about wanting to do. And I see Sea of Thieves being the same way, almost.
The problem is when they refer to themselves really heavily as games. I think that a lot of these titles should really kind of remarket themselves as experiences, because when you put the tag game on something, then people automatically go to puzzles and progression and XP and upgrading and all these different kinds of things, whereas No Man's Sky wasn't necessarily built for that. It was more built to be a lonely sci-fi exploration experience. It's not a game in the typical sense of a game.
Exactly.
So when
precisely.
Yeah, we have that already. They're called simulations. No Man's Sky is a simulation. If you pay really close attention to the ARG, the message it's sending to you in the game or in the simulation, it's a simulation. And the thing is a simulation is not a game. You're more dependent on what you need to do. For example, Second Life is a really good example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is and that's what you're right. It shouldn't be marketed as a game. It should be marketed as a simulation. However, try explaining that to the masses. I mean, again, never accuse the human race of intelligence, right? You have problems as soon as you assume somebody is smart.
I love Panda, and I think I've your expression, and I think I've even said it before, that No Man's Sky is an experience, and I think marketing one of these titles, like No Man's Sky or Sea of Thieves, as an experience, I think is actually something that these developers and publishers should actually consider.
It's more indicative of like what's actually taking place. I'm a business manager by trade in the sales and marketing industry, and I work with major companies, and the whole thing is how do we build the message that we're trying to convey, and these games are shorting these. They're shorting themselves by calling these games, because that's not really what they are. Like when I play No Man's Sky, I'm not trying to get XP so that I can upgrade my armor. I want to go and see planets. I want to see weird animals and weird terrain, and I want to see what this planet looks like on the horizon from this moon, and like that's what I'm going for. When you download a flight simulator game on your computer or whatever, and you're flying around, you're not concerned with if I get 3,000 XP, I'm going to be able to get better ailerons for my aircraft. Like it doesn't work that way. You're just flying a plane, and that's how these games should market.
Right. Yeah. Alex there is given a 1 through 10 things to do. I think I got all of those things covered. I think all of you guys do too as well. So pretty interesting comments there. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of break in just real quick, and before Nathan cuts out again, I wanted to ask him a question. What kind of advice do you have with someone who's just learning C#?
If you're learning C#, I suggest start small and don't worry about the extensions. Worry about the fundamentals. You want to learn more about logical operators, your control statements such as if, else, and switch. You want to learn about your loops such as do while or while loops or for each loops or for loops. Study the meat and potatoes of programming first. Don't care so much about the language you're using, but spend more time learning about the foundation, like how to control flow, how to control your logic flow. That's what you want to learn, and you also want to learn algorithms such as stacks and queues and binary trees and sorts like bubble sort and stuff like that. Spend your time learning that. Don't learn the language. Use the language to learn how to program, because programming is logic. If you understand that if something is true is true, if something is false, and if something is mostly true is still false, then you have a good beginning, right? If something is on, it is on. If something is off, it is off. If something equals this, then it's this. If it doesn't, then it's that. So learn logic first. Learn the meat and potatoes on the bare bones. Learn to program.
And the bowls and the public floats and all that stuff.
Don't worry about floats and quaternions and stuff like that. Worry about that stuff later. But please, as a guy who's written his own engine, use some.
Uh-oh.
Darn.
Use what?
Use some.
Oh, use what?
Am I cutting out?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's when you talk too loud, it cuts out.
Somebody else's engine. Okay, don't try and reinvent the wheel every single time you're trying to do something. Right. So, like Unity, Unreal Tournament, libgdx. Don't sit down and try to reinvent the wheel. You will waste a lot of your time.
Okay.
But learn the meat and potatoes first. That's the most important thing. And for example, if you want to do, let's say you want to do procedurally generated stuff, start learning stuff like Perlian noise. What's the other one? Fibonacci, the Fibonacci curve, or whatever. Learn stuff like that.
The golden mean.
Yes. Learn that stuff first, and then
I've got a question for you as well, actually, about that. So Perlian noise and all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on Uber noise, which is essentially Hello Games combining all the different forms of noise generation to create more interesting terrain like a No Man's Sky? what do you think about Houdini and Tagma as a thing for procedural effects? And do you think that the company, it's 3 questions there. Do you think the company Euclidean, where they're using atom-based builds instead of polygons, do you think that there's a future in that?
Well, I'll address the one with atoms first. I want that real bad.
Euclidean sounds dope. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, look it up.
Yeah, it's all of that's. Try it first.
Cut out again.
Okay, don't ever disclude any technology. Try it all. If I can give any programmer any future programmer any advice, try it all and learn it all, because the whole point of programming is to build something from nothing using nothing. And
see, my problem right now is I'm taking a course called Udemy, and they're right now I'm building a game, and they're not really teaching me what things are. They're just saying, do this, put a public float here. Now we're going to put an int here, and you're going to put your variables right there. And so I'm pausing, going over to my mono develop, and I'm putting this stuff in, and then I'm going back and pushing play. Oh, I didn't put that little symbol. And it's like, I'm not really learning.
No, you're learning how to code. You're not learning how to program.
Right.
There is a difference. There's for example, if you're a software engineer, you're doing what I'm doing. If you're a coder, you're doing what you're doing now. You're taking somebody else's pseudocode and you're translating it from whatever code it is to workable whatever, C#, Java, doesn't matter. If you want to learn how to program, that's completely different. If you want to, I have got no problem teaching. I've had so many people ask me to teach how to program. I should probably sit down and do at least a video or 2. But again, believe it or not, games is actually new to me. I deal a lot with data. So like big data, web development, database design and deployment, rationalization, no SQL. That's my background. So business applications are my background. Gaming's actually quite new. But if you want to learn the meat and potatoes of programming so you can understand what they're teaching you, and this is a problem with a lot of these online courses, they're not really teaching you anything. They're showing you how to make a game, and then from that game you can edit that game to turn it into a bunch of different games. But again, then you end up with a lot of really crappy games, which is why we have developers like Hello Games and EA and Square, and Rockstar. But if you want to learn how to code, believe it or not, a good book, and you can pick them up. What's the one that I used to use? Oh man, it's in the back. I haven't used it in such a long time. Just pick up a decent college level book about. I use Java. I'm a Java developer. I use it a lot. But you're learning C#. But I mean, they translate well, so you could probably. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Get a book on algorithms. Get a book on basic programming. Programming for dummies doesn't necessarily need, and that'll give you a base. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not to say that you should go and pick up a copy of Programming for Dummies, but a book like that, a very beginner level programming on how to do, the basic control statements, etc., and learn how that works. Then go back to your Udemy course, and then you'll be able to see what's going on. It's like a light switch going on. You'll go, oh, that's why they're doing that.
Oh, yeah. I'm waiting for that to happen.
Like I said, doing what you're doing now, just with the Udemy course, it's not going to be honest. It might. For some people it does. For some people it doesn't. But if you need a tutorial sometime, like, I don't know, hit me up. I'll probably be able, if anybody else is interested, hit me up. I'll be able to help you out.
Awesome. I
should be teaching. But yeah, like I said, learn to program first before you start making video games. Programming is like programming normal stuff like data entry, database manipulation, file manipulation, the basic switch if and else statements, your basic loops. That is way more important than what you're trying to do. It's the tools that it's like trying to build a car, and they're giving you the pieces for the car, but they're not giving you the wrenches. They're doing that for you.
Yeah. Alex in the chat says, look for a PDF called Thinking in C# by Bruce Eckel.
No.
No?
No. Trust me, it doesn't matter what language you're using. You can, I suppose that would work if it's very beginner level. But like I said, you want to start from scratch. Like you really want to start from scratch. Let me see if I can't find it. There's like a million that are like, yeah. Well, yeah, you can try that one out and let me know how it works for you. I'd have to actually see the book, but starting in C# is generally not something you want to do. You want to start with either C or Java or C++ or Java, because once you learn those two, you can learn the rest with the exception of assembler. If you want to learn assembler, you have to learn assembler. But everything else stems from learning one of those two languages. C# is actually very close to Java. They're very object oriented, and they follow the same sort of structural, where you need to import your stuff and you don't need header files, etc. They're very similar, so that book might work. But I'd have to actually see it, because I'm really leery about using a beginner book if it's not really a beginner book. Like thinking in C# is like that to me. That sounds like it's more of a beginner to intermediate, and you want something that'll run the gamut, something that you'll actually want to go back to use as a resource if you forget how to use it.
Yeah. Well, oh my God, King Dante! I'm so sorry I didn't introduce you. I'm sorry, Dante. What's going on, buddy?
And I appreciate it.
Huh?
You cut out, bro.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Are you stuck in the convergence?
I seen him there on my way out.
We can't hear you, buddy.
Can you hear me?
You're cutting out pretty bad.
You're cutting out, bud.
All right, 1 second.
Oh, we can hear you. Gotcha, bud. Got to get next to that router.
Move the rabbit ears more east.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my dad would have me get up and use the rabbit ears, and he's like, move the antenna. So I move it, and so many times it would always mess up when I would walk away. So many times I'd have to stand there throughout the duration of whatever he was watching. Some Chuck Norris movie, some old Star Trek, and I'd have to stand there. And it was almost as bad as being stood in a corner.
It's good news. It's good news to know that I'm not the only guy in here, the only old guy in here.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
I was the remote. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
buddy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on bass, so like signal here on this bass is like trash. Yeah.
You're on a base?
Is your base in the Euclid?
Yeah. I'm in the Navy.
Oh, you're in the Navy. Oh, cool, man. I thought you were calling us from the Euclid Galaxy somewhere.
Dante, you're not gonna get like an email from your CEO saying, "Why were you using up all of our bandwidth? We're trying to monitor North Korea here."
Right? Exactly. No, I'm on my cell phone right now, so
We're trying to monitor Trump's Twitter to see if he's going to start a war.
That sounds like a full-time job.
It is a full-time job.
We'll bring you on the show, Dante.
Say what?
We'll bring you on the show, buddy.
Just listening in. I told you I'll try to come in on one of the morning shows. So, pretty much like heading back to work right now. So I just wanted to like pop in, say hi before I have to go.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Are you having an afternoon one or like nighttime one?
No, not today. There won't be a night one on today.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so this one kind of turned into a morning and afternoon one.
Yeah. So I got maybe like 13 more minutes I could just chill with you guys.
Awesome, very awesome, dude. So I don't know. We've talked about a lot of things here today. We talked about some dungeons. We talked about it's hard to think about how they could top Atlas Rises. What could they add to it that makes it so much bigger than Atlas Rises? And you think about the possibilities and what it could be. What is your speculation?
Like I said yesterday, the integration with Microsoft and the whole Wear thing sounds interesting. Like I said, if Microsoft announces in E3 that they have a VR headset, or they're going to integrate, Vive or the Rift or something into the console. That will give more reason for, them to be like, hey, we're going to have a VR experience with the game. If they don't do that, it's kind of tricky. It's like they could add in more of a story into the actual game, give more reason to, venture to a planet that you typically won't go to, but it's give more reason behind the resources. Obviously multiplayer, but
Yeah.
why the multiplayer? Like, it's cool, yeah, you can see each other, but give a reason. Are we like hunting the animals? Why do we need this specific animal? I think they should definitely do some more with the ecosystem as far as the animal grouping. They did stuff with the flora, fauna, but with animals, they can do, like, I think somebody mentioned last time, the little noises, the little squeaks. Yeah, you can probably change that, but give more life to the animals, and a reason for them being there as opposed to jumping around and stuff. Let me see what else.
I tell you what, I've never played it, but I have had the developers here on the channel, and I interviewed them, the ones that made Astroneer. And I haven't played it because my PC broke right at the time it was released. And but I've watched streams. I've watched people play it together, friends. It's co-op, and it looks so much fun. Seeing people like working together, building their bases and everything, and going off and exploring caves. It looks like a heck of a lot of fun. And I can see that being the type of multiplayer that would be in No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I can see it too. But at the same time, that that high, that endorphin rush will wear off if there's no goal to reach, like a reward at the end. Like, oh yeah, we went through the cave, but there was nothing in it. What do we do now? Oh, let's go to the cave.
Hey, well, hold on a second. If we went back to our childhood, I used to go out in the bush and do that all the time. Be like, we're going out in the bush. What are we doing? We're going in the bush. We're not really accomplishing anything. We're just going out in the bush.
Yep. That's something that I do. Like, when I stream, I'll find interesting things in the game, and I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to go explore that. Why? Because I can, and because it looks cool. And like, I found one of the the giant rectangular rock plinths that are sort of on top of the cones on some of the planets that you see, where they're just big, huge rectangular rocks balancing on top of those. Well, I found one with holes in it. I'm like, well, I got to go see what that is. So I went up through the holes and went to the top of the thing, through the holes in the rock. And why? Just no reason. It sounded like a fun idea at the time. The same reason you go outside and play with a stick for 4 hours when you're a kid. It's like, you get a stick and some dirt, and you can keep yourself entertained for hours because you got a stick and some dirt, man. Think of all the things you can do with that.
This guy knows
maybe
where I'm at.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm like a super nerd, but like it kind of, No Man's Sky kind of brings me back to like the moon landing. Like when the first people like that went to the moon, the brave souls that like flew there, if you believe in the moon landing, they didn't find anything on the moon. There was nothing like interesting there. You know what I mean? The interesting part was like getting to the moon, like the materials that they had to use to get past the Valley Island radiation belts, all that kind of stuff. Like, getting to the moon was like the cool part. Like, they didn't find anything there. Or, when these explorers in the 1700s and 1600s and stuff would go off in these sailboats to try to discover new lands, maybe they didn't find anything interesting. I think that the journey, if they can pull off the journey part of it, then you don't really need to have a reward at the end. The reward itself could be the journey. And I think that's where the focus should be, is how do they make the journey rewarding? Like, what is your purpose for going there? Not what you get when you get there, but how do they make going there interesting?
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree completely with that. Another thing I really did love about it when I did play, I need to get my PC turned. I need to turn it back on. But anyways, when I did, was just exactly that, like going to a new place, discovering new things, seeing different stuff. Do you know if they're working with that? I saw that there's like that one guy who makes that ROM or that mod that's like really nice or something for the game. Do you know if they're working with him at all?
I'm sorry, what is it?
Are you
Like-
talking about Rayrod?
Rayrod, right?
Yeah.
No, they're not
No,
working with him. No.
No. Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
think
pretty-
if they follow the same pattern that a lot of games do with the modding community, is that I think they appreciate the modding community, and I think they like having the modders out there. But I think they're more focused on, let's give them the vanilla experience, and if they want to go mod it, then fantastic, and they can do whatever they want with modding the game.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much that's across the board for a lot. Like the Fallout community is the same way, where the developers of Fallout appreciate the fact that their modding community is doing all this stuff, but their whole purpose is, let's give them the game, and then if they want to do things with it, then fantastic. But we're going to focus on our, I guess you call it, vanilla version of the game, rather than working directly with the modding community. Which is, I mean, I as much as I like Rayrod's mods, and he's done some amazing work with it, first of all, I don't run it because I don't want to stress out my PC anymore that's already being stressed out. And secondly, me personally, I want the vanilla experience versus the modded experience. So if they updated the game so it was basically Rayrod's mods the game, I don't know if I'd enjoy it as much.
It wouldn't seem original at all.
There's things that like I'm sure they have the capability of doing on PC, but they can't. The PC version can't be different from a vanilla standpoint than the PS4 version. There has to be a lot of parallels. So even though Rayrod has these great ideas, like with the Rayrod, version 10 and the immersion update and all that kind of stuff, and you've got like these dense forests that like look fantastic and all of that. Obviously, the computer is capable of doing that if you've got a powerful enough PC. The PlayStation is not. And so whatever it is that, I think that when Hello Games posted, or when Sean Murray posted that Imgur file with all the different like screenshots in it, where most of them were taken in Rayrod's mod,
right,
or some sort of mod, I think that's Sean Murray's way of saying like, hey, we like a lot of these ideas, and a lot of these ideas might be coming, but like I don't think they can do everything because it has to run on the PlayStation. And I think that's the biggest hiccup they have, to be honest, because on the PC they can do the gas giants and the ringed planets, and they can do the super dense forest and the high resolution textures and all that kind of stuff. But can they do that on a console that's hardware hasn't changed since 5 years ago? Maybe not. So
no, the PS4 and the Xbox One X probably both would choke if they tried to introduce Rayrod's mods. I just don't think that wouldn't be realistic. You would have to seriously upgrade the hardware for the thing, and then you have the problem of you can only see it in 30 FPS anyway. So man, what's the point?
Well, the One X, if any console is going to be really capable of doing anything remotely close, it's going to be the One X. Like the One X, for example, my brother, he was playing Far Cry 5 on his Xbox One X in 4K with HDR support at 60 frames a second, and the thing's not even like making any noise. But if I play on my PS4 Pro, No Man's Sky at 30 frames a second in 4K, it sounds like my PlayStation 4 is screaming at me.
That's two separate games and two separate game models, two separate game engines. You can't really compare the two. The only way to do that would be to play both at that resolution. Just saying.
That's a good point, because with No Man's Sky, the console itself is building the game as you play, right?
It's playing having done procedural generation. As you're moving forward, things are getting generated within a certain allotted time. Plus, it's every object that you can see within from your center, right? So whichever way your camera is pointing, so you have your field of vision, and it's being generated as you walk. Whereas Far Cry, the same is happening, but it's finite. So there's no mathematics needed to be done. So there's no the threading required to do it won't require as much as for, let's say, No Man's Sky in 4K. So
hey guys, I appreciate having me on the channel. I gotta head out. But
okay, buddy.
I'll hop back a little bit later on.
All right, man. Take care, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Dante.
Yeah. I'll see you guys
Guys.
later. Bye-bye.
We're probably going to go ahead and end the show here in a few minutes. So any loose ends that we need to take care of as far as conversations or things, topics we didn't fully close off of. And also, if you guys have YouTube channels or Twitch channels, I'd like to make sure people know about those.
Yeah, I've actually got a Twitch channel. I do some streaming once in a while. It's twitch.tv/TylerRex1102.
Tyler Rex 1102.
Yep, I do some No Man's Sky and occasionally some Minecraft.
Awesome. You know, that's another phenomena. Minecraft. It's still going just as strong, if not stronger than than a brand new game. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
Yeah, and it's still getting updates and but just with like their own spin on it, just like with what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Minecraft was one of those games that I was sort of like, oh, this is a kid's game. Why would I play that? And then my computer broke last year, and the only game I could play was Minecraft. And I picked it up, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And let me tell you, it's a lot of fun because it's basically
24 hours later.
So, like, I love to build wrestling arenas in there, and I do like concept stage designs and all that sort of stuff. And I actually built an arena that's for like a small show with like tour buses, a limousine, a production truck. And, if you guys come check out the stream, you might get to see some of that stuff and see what I'm working on now.
Sure, buddy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Very cool.
If anybody's wondering about the picture that's on the screen, see Help Ya is asking about the picture. There's not really a link. I don't know if you know our friend of the show, Tim. He works at GameStop. So he looked inside his computer at work to see if there was a release date, a street date of No Man's Sky for Xbox One. And sure enough, they have that information on their computers, and it says 7/24. So that is looks like the official release date for No Man's Sky on Xbox One. 7/24. Nice. Anybody else got Akoto? I know has been over on Twitch, and he's got amazing streams over there. I remember one of the most memorable times watching you is when Waking Titan actually was in the chat.
Yes, when this all began. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That was pretty cool, man.
When the madness started, that was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I was just sitting around one day. I think it was what? It was March, April, about this time last year. I was just sitting around playing No Man's Sky, just tooling around in my rover on a lush planet, and all of a sudden, I'm just waxing poetic about what Atlas Rises is going to be in the ARG, and Waking Titan walks in. I don't know what triggered it. I really don't. I've gone back and watched it over and over and over again to see what triggered Waking Titan to show up in my chat and basically say, "Good job, scientist. Keep going." I'm like, what? And then the next thing I know, I've got everyone from Discord. Everyone. All the people from Discord are in my channel going, what do they say? What's going on? So what were the exact words? What was the punctuation used? I'm like, that was my introduction to the madness that was the overanalyzation of Waking Titan at that point, where I was just like, I don't know. This is what they hear. I'll copy and paste it. Is that exactly what they said? Is that the exact punctuation they used? Yes. Yeah,
I know exactly what you feel like, man. When I got the cassette tape from Waking Titan. Yeah. And I had it, and I was having trouble trying to get it recorded onto the PC. And I'm like, well, crap. Allison Smith and Hello Games, they know I have it because I saw, they know it got delivered. There was a confirmation. So it's been a couple hours, and I'm like, I got to do something. I got to at least tell people I have it. And that was the biggest mistake before I was ready to actually put it on the net. Yeah, and so I mentioned I had it. You should hear every device the computers, the sounds. It was insane. I'm like, oh my God. I turned everything off that I needed to, I only had, I only had on what I needed to have on, and while I got this thing on a computer, because it was so stressful. I had people say to me, Cobra, turn over the tape. Don't upload it. Just give it to us. Just transfer it over. Just
send us the tape and no one gets hurt.
Yeah. I'm like, who are you?
The weirdest thing about that particular stream is there were so many strange things happening during that stream that made no sense whatsoever. Like at one point, it was really strange. At one point, because there were a good, half dozen people that were streaming No Man's Sky that particular day. Because it was at that and it was 2 people watching, 3 people watching, 5 people watching, whatever it was. It was still in the whole No Man's Sky hate period before Atlas Rises hit and it started gaining more traction. So there were half dozen people that were streaming at that point. And then someone comes into my channel, I think it was Thelanius from the CSD Discord, and he said, do you know Twitch is only showing there's one person streaming No Man's Sky? And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I went over and looked, and sure enough, all the other people that had been streaming No Man's Sky that were still streaming No Man's Sky weren't showing up in the search anymore. It was just me. And I'm like, that's not possible.
Wow.
That can't, it doesn't work like that. Twitch search does not work like, if you type in a game, you go select that game, everyone who's streaming it'll show up. No, only I was showing up. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So it was surreal that particular day. So
that's pretty cool.
All right, but anyway, my channel is twitch.tv/Akodo, AKODO, Kusamoto, KUSAMOTO. I typically stream 4 p.m. Eastern until whenever I fall over, Monday through Thursday, and then I do a bonus stream on the weekends. Since Waking Titans maybe going to heat up again this weekend, I'll try and do an As It Happens stream, but if not, I'll just play 2020 and do the recap on Sunday afternoon, depending on what happens. So, but yeah, typically Monday through Thursday. I do play other games too. It's Waking Titan and No Man's Sky have sort of taken over my life here in the last couple of months. But I play a lot of survival games, a lot of indie games. Occasionally I play World of Warcraft, depending on how I feel, Minecraft, a few other things. So.
Awesome. Very awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any YouTube channels or Twitch?
Yeah, I am the Frag Ninja. You can find me on YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Frag Ninja with a capital F. And we swear a lot, and we're very uncouth. And if you are under the age of 21, it's probably not a good idea to watch any of our streams. Just saying.
Hey, send me a link, buddy.
Oh, sure, will do.
Yeah, definitely. Who else?
Hey, it's Panda. I'm going to shout out just a couple of my favorite channels that I watch a lot. Our community is about to get a little bit bigger after this next update, and so I just want to show some love with, MZK, LPlays Gaming, Ivy Mike, Grammy Plays. Check out those channels; they're great. Don't forget to check out Mock Tone. He's a small channel, good guy, really cool dude. I've had him on a couple of streams. Shout out to Martin Boyd. Lily at NMS Cafe, and Tempest, the founder of the Galactic Consortium Databank. And so I just kind of wanted to shout those guys out. I deal with them a lot, and they always throw me support in the stream. So, big up to those guys. And don't forget to check out the Hidden Panda Show. If you like Reynolds Rap and you have an odd fascination with conspiracy theories, it's probably the channel for you. If that stresses you out, probably not the channel for you. So check out Hidden Panda Show, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Very awesome. Anybody else? All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and shut it down for today. We had the dungeon thing. It could have been an example. It could have been. I don't know, but
it isn't. They wanted you to see that.
I don't know. It could be I'm going to leave it open for the end of the show. It could have been an example, but all I know is Sean did want dungeons in the game. So there's the want, and then then there's whatever that is. We got a donation from Help You Collections. Thank you so much, Help You. Thanks for the awesome streams, Cobra. Get some rest. Thank you. I will. I'm definitely gonna get some rest. So okay, carpets and curtains, guys. Speculate, and then after you're done speculating and frothing at the mouth, I want you to, repeat the words carpets and curtains. Carpets and curtains. That's what next is. That's what you're getting. All right, guys. See everybody. I don't know. In the next video, I got a couple of videos I'm going to upload. And so I'll see you guys in those videos. Thanks, guys, for calling into the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Cobra.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye, guys.